To buy 100,000 shares of a stock, an institutional algorithm has to solve a physics problem. The sheer mass of the order will crush the execution price if it hits the market all at once. In quantitative finance, engineers map this destruction using mathematics. They calculate temporary and permanent price impact functions to execute large positions without signaling their intent to the broader market. On the other side of the industry, retail traders attempt to visualize this exact same phenomenon using price action heuristics, looking for what they call smart money concepts or supply and demand zones. These two groups operate in completely segregated silos. The MIT quant writes stochastic calculus, while the retail chartist simply draws rectangles on a daily candlestick chart. Despite the conflicting terminology, both sides are observing the exact same mechanical reality, the intertemporal dynamics of the limit order book. Standard economic theory teaches that supply and demand are perfectly elastic, static lines crossing on an infinitely smooth graph. But modern electronic markets do not operate on a smooth curve. They operate on the limit order book, a physical, three-dimensional queue of bids and asks stacked at specific price levels. Because liquidity is a literal queue of physical orders, a large market buy order consumes the available sell limit orders at the current price. It instantly depletes the local supply. Once those initial orders are eaten, a void remains. The price instantly gaps upward to the next available block of sellers. Before attempting to optimize an algorithm or decode a chart pattern, you must define the market as this physical, destructible queue. It is an environment of finite capacity that breaks when hit with size. For years, the industry standard for institutional execution relied on linear price impact models, like the mathematical framework proposed by Dimitris Bertsimis and Andrew Lo in 1998. Their math leads to a highly intuitive execution strategy. You take a massive block order and slice it into small, perfectly uniform pieces, executing them at regular, fixed time intervals. A problem emerges when you push this math to its limits. If you shrink the time interval between these trades closer to zero, the number of individual trades scales toward infinity. You transition from discrete, staggered trades into a state of continuous trading. In this continuous time limit, the expected execution cost collapses. The math flattens out into a strategy-independent constant. Economically, this result is absurd. It implies a trader could execute their entire order with infinite speed at the very beginning of the session, without incurring any extra penalty for aggressively depleting the supply. The strategy of evenly slicing an order fails under rigorous testing because it assumes the market can instantly absorb flow. It is completely blind to the actual mechanics of how liquidity recovers over time. To solve this, MIT researchers Anna Obizhaeva and Zheng Wang rebuilt the execution problem from the ground up, modeling what literally happens to the order book after a discrete trade. When a block trade drops into the market, it instantly vaporizes the lowest priced sell orders. The ask price gaps upward to reflect the missing supply. According to the MIT framework, this creates two distinct effects. First, there is a permanent shift in the mid-quote price, denoted by lambda, representing the new steady-state value of the asset. Second, there is the physical gap left in the queue. The order book does not repair this damage instantly. Instead, new limit orders flow back into the void at an exponential recovery rate, a variable defined as resilience, or rho. If you project this mathematical recovery phase onto a standard retail price chart, it takes on a highly familiar shape. As new limit orders stack up to fill the depleted void, the price action flattens out, forming a tight consolidation zone, or what technical traders call a base. The base pattern on a chart is not a subjective formation. It is the visual proxy for the order book's mathematical resilience rate actively replenishing the queue. If the limit order book recovers at an exponential rate, the objective is to execute a massive order while minimizing the damage caused by your own trades. This chart, taken directly from the MIT paper, reveals the continuous time solution. It completely abandons the industry standard of evenly sliced trades. Looking at the bottom panel, we see the optimal execution profile. The first phase of the strategy requires a massive, discrete spike in trading volume the exact second the time horizon begins. The logic here is counterintuitive. Instead of hiding the trade, the algorithm intentionally subjects the limit order book to a violent shock, pushing it far away from its steady state. The algorithm causes this imbalance on purpose. Triggering the shock is a mathematical prerequisite to activate the resilience rate and bait fresh limit orders into the book. Once the new liquidity starts flowing, the algorithm shifts into the middle phase, a flat, steady stream of continuous microtrades. This continuous flow is perfectly calibrated to match the order book's recovery speed. It picks off the new liquidity at the exact rate it replenishes, ensuring the execution cost remains at the absolute minimum. Finally, as the time horizon expires, a second discrete spike fires, rapidly liquidating any remaining position before the session ends. The most mathematically efficient way to move size in a market is not to blend in with uniform slices. It is to deliberately break the physical limits of the order book and engineer your own liquidity. This mathematical reality directly explains the phenomena retail traders identify as inducement or liquidity sweeps. A classic liquidity sweep appears as a massive, aggressive wick that shoots through an established retail support zone, stopping out retail traders. The mechanical cause is the institutional algorithm executing that initial discrete block trade prescribed by the MIT model. Retail stop losses are triggered because the algorithm is mathematically forced to violently push the book into an imbalance. It must clear out the current queue to force the resilience mechanism to generate new limit orders. The reversal that follows, the phase where retail traders attempt to ride the mitigation of an order block, is simply the algorithm shifting into its continuous trading phase, absorbing the new liquidity it just engineered. The price action retail traders label as smart money manipulation is exactly what a limit order book looks like when an algorithm executes the strict mathematical requirements of volume resilience. The static two-dimensional supply and demand curves of textbook economics do not exist in modern algorithmic trading environments. Market liquidity is an intertemporal object. It is an active environment with physical memory, structural elasticity, and a highly measurable recovery speed. Whether you map the market using stochastic calculus at MIT or trace Wyckoff accumulation bases on a retail chart, your survival depends entirely on respecting the physical elasticity of the limit order book.